Before pain, before fear, before guilt, there was a garden. A place where the wind did not frighten, where the light did not burn the eyes, where the presence of God did not cause trembling, but peace. The man and the woman did not know shame. They did not know the weight of a wounded conscience. They did not know distance. They walked, and God walked with them. There were no barriers, no invisible walls, no uncomfortable silence between Creator and creation. There was communion. But every true love story includes freedom, and freedom always carries risk. Today we enter the most decisive moment in human history. This is not just an ancient mistake. It is not merely forbidden fruit. It is the birth of the human drama. It is where our story truly begins. The garden was not merely beautiful. It was order. It was harmony. It was perfect balance between creation and creator. The earth produced without struggle. The rivers flowed in peace. The animals did not fear. And at the center, there were two trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The first represented continuity. The second represented choice. God had spoken clearly. You may eat from every tree in the garden, but from this one you must not. It was not about food. It was about trust. It was about recognizing that God was still God. Because love without choice is not love. It is programming. And God did not create machines. He created beings capable of deciding. And then a voice appears. Subtle, intelligent, questioning. The serpent does not begin with denial. It begins with doubt. Did God really say? Notice this carefully. The attack is not direct. It is strategic. It plants suspicion. Perhaps God is withholding something. Perhaps He does not want you to be like Him. Perhaps there is more. Doubt enters the mind before it reaches the heart. And it still works this way today. Evil rarely presents itself as evil. It presents itself as possibility, as independence, as limitless freedom. The fruit looked good, pleasant to the eyes, desirable for gaining wisdom. Nothing appeared monstrous. There were no thunderclaps, no warning signs, only a silent decision. She took it. She ate. And she gave it to the man. And he ate as well. Just like that. Disobedience entered the world not with violence, but with a gesture. And in that instant, something changed. Not in the garden, but in them. Their eyes were opened, but not as they expected. They did not become gods. They became aware of their nakedness, aware of their exposure, aware of their fragility. The first consequence of sin was not punishment. It was shame. They sewed fig leaves together. They tried to cover what once needed no covering. And then they heard footsteps. The voice that once brought joy now brought fear. Adam, where are you? It was not a geographical question. It was an existential one. Where are you now? Because God is not the first to withdraw. It is the human heart that hides. They hid among the trees. The same garden that was once shelter became a hiding place. Fear entered. Guilt entered. Blame entered. What have you done? The woman you gave me. The serpent deceived me. Sin broke more than a command. It broke relationship. Trust was replaced by justification. And then came the consequences. Pain, toil, conflict, and finally, exile. The garden was left behind. The entrance was guarded. The tree of life was no longer accessible. Humanity now stood on the outside. Here something unexpected is born. In the middle of judgment, a promise. God declares that from the woman's offspring would come one one who would crush the serpent's head, even while being wounded. Right there, in the midst of the fall, the first seed of redemption is planted. Before humanity fully understands its fall, God already announces restoration. The fall is not just an ancient event. It explains why we feel inner conflict, why we desire good and yet choose wrong, why we seek God and at the same time run from Him. This is where human tension begins. The desire for autonomy and the need for salvation. From that moment on, the biblical story becomes a search, a promise unfolding across centuries. Patriarchs, prophets, sacrifices, covenants, all pointing to something greater. If there is an after Christ, it is because there was first a fall. Without the fall, there is no need for redemption. Without separation, there is no reconciliation. Without shame, there is no grace. The drama begins in the garden. But the solution begins there too, as a seed. And perhaps you are thinking, what does this have to do with me? Everything. Because each of us has made our own choice. Each of us has listened to the voice of doubt. Each of us has tried to hide, tried to sow our own leaves, tried to justify. The garden story is not distant. It is a mirror. But the promise is for us as well. If the fall was collective, so is the hope. Imagine the gates of the garden closing, the light remaining behind, the man and the woman walking into a harsher world. But on the horizon, a thread of light, the promise still alive. Evil entered, but it did not win forever. Because from the very beginning, the story was never only about the fall. It was always about redemption. If this episode touched something deep within you, if you felt the weight of this moment in history, subscribe to the channel. Because the journey is just beginning. In the next episode, we will see how humanity lives outside the garden, and how the promise slowly begins to take form. The story continues, and now you are part of it.